So I've been thinking about this lately. When is Jared Isaacman going to take over as head of NASA? It's almost like Eric Berger read my mind and he put out a great article giving us some updates as to what's going on and why Jared hasn't been confirmed yet. Many former NASA astronauts have already endorsed Jared Isaacman, which you can see in this letter addressed to the Honorable Ted Cruz and the Honorable Maria Cantwell. And Ted Cruz is important in this update because he is the chair of the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee for the United States Senate. So some people are wondering if Jared Isaacman's confirmation has been stalled. As many of you know, Jared announced December 4th, 2024 that President Trump had nominated him to lead NASA. And so of course there are many confirmations taking place. According to Eric's article from Ars Technica, the vast majority of President Trump's cabinet members have already been approved by the U.S. Senate. Now they're looking to tackle those senior positions within the administration that are just below cabinet level, and that includes NASA. And many of us are celebrating the idea of Jared Isaacman leading NASA, hopefully making some much-needed changes and providing some measured and rational leadership. So what's going on? Why have we had several months in between the nomination and still no confirmation? Well, Jared still hasn't even had his hearing before the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. Jared has been networking behind the scenes with people in the space community and office holders to build support for his new position. And Eric has some really serious inside sources, so I believe that he's really in the know about this. Which is why for us on the outside, we haven't seen much happening. Some people fear the nomination has stalled. And some people have even speculated that the financial ties between Jared Isaacman and SpaceX could be a conflict. It all comes down to Ted Cruz, the Texas Republican who chairs the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. So according to Eric Berger, he says that Cruz is not happy that Isaacman has donated to Democrats in the past, and he is concerned that Jared is more interested in Mars exploration than the moon. And that's a concern for a lot of folks in the space industry, this idea that we would skip the moon and go straight to Mars, and a lot of us agree that that is not a good idea and we should not leave the moon behind, including myself. Apparently, Ted Cruz was also not fond of Elon Musk's recent announcement that he thinks that we should end the life of the International Space Station early. Elon Musk tweeted a few weeks ago that he believes we should deorbit the ISS in 2027 instead of in 2030, which is the intended end-of-life date. And Ted Cruz actually does have a stake in the space world. The ISS is operated by NASA's Field Center Johnson Space Center in Houston, where Ted Cruz lives. But according to these inside sources, even though Jared still hasn't received his hearing, apparently his candidacy remains on track. And we're starting to see more and more announcements of public support. Earlier this month, several governors in U.S. states, including Florida and Texas, sent a letter to Ted Cruz expressing strong support for the confirmation of Jared. Jared Isaacman has also written his own letter explaining how he plans to detangle his conflicts of interest. First, he would resign from the company he founded, Shift4 Payments. He's also declared that agreements between himself and SpaceX for the Polaris missions will be terminated, which, man, that's a pretty big sacrifice. And as I mentioned, there was that letter of more than 24 former astronauts, both Republicans and Democrats, who sent a letter in support of Jared, writing that he's uniquely qualified to lead NASA at this critical juncture. And apparently Eric Berger with Ars Technica reached out for a comment from Ted Cruz, but was not responded to, which means that if I reach out for a comment, I think it'll be even harder to get a response. So what happens next? Well, the confirmation process and hearing that Jared is due likely will not be a walk in the park. He'll be grilled probably about his potential conflicts of interest with his ties to Elon Musk and SpaceX. But really, the biggest thing is patience here. This hearing probably won't happen until even May. That's because there's recesses in April for Easter and Passover, and there's limited opportunities for a confirmation hearing. So we might have to wait until May until Jared even gets that hearing. And Eric has talked to many people within NASA. He has many credible sources. And apparently people working at NASA would really like Jared to take over sooner than later. As many of you know, federal workers and the employees at NASA feel a bit surprised by President Trump's rapid changes within their industry. Many people have been called to resign. Many people have been cut because they're trying to reduce the workforce. And of course, there's those pesky budget cuts. So will Jared be able to save the day and be the hero in all of this? I think it's a really tall order, but I do think he's going to make an exceptional leader. And one other interesting tidbit is that when we look back at Jim Bridenstine, who was nominated by President Trump in his last term, Jim was nominated on September 1st, 2017, to be the head of NASA, but he was confirmed by the U.S. Senate on April 19th, 2018 by a party line vote of 50 to 49. So just that puts it into perspective that maybe waiting a few extra months actually isn't terribly out of the norm. And speaking of those budget cuts, apparently NASA is terminating $420 million in contracts. But according to Jeff Faust's reporting, NASA did not answer questions about specific contracts selected for termination or details about how it determined those contracts were redundant or misaligned. And one final thing while we're on the topic, NASA has removed the mention of there being a first woman and the first person of color who will land on the moon during the Artemis 3 mission from its websites. Now, this has been, along with the slogan of "We are going" with SLS and the idea that we're going back to the moon, this has been, the other catchphrase is that we would send the first woman and person of color, but due to President Trump's directives, this has been removed from the websites. So this is interesting now because no crew members have been named for the Artemis 3 mission. And with President Trump's push to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion from all federal websites, it really makes you wonder if this will even be a priority. But I think what's more pressing is I don't even know if we're going to have an Artemis 3, and I guess we're going to have to learn what Jared wants to do with the Artemis program. And finally, here's a dash of SpaceX news. On March 3rd, the U.S. Air Force uploaded a notice to the Federal Register that it plans to construct 2 rocket landing pads on Johnston Island, a remote, unincorporated U.S. territory 700 nautical miles off Hawaii. This is part of the Rocket Cargo Vanguard program, which aims to deliver supplies anywhere on Earth in 90 minutes or less using SpaceX rockets, probably Starship, launched into space and landed back on Earth. The small island is part of the Johnston Atoll National Wildlife Refuge within the Pacific Islands Heritage Marine National Monument and requires the Pentagon to conduct an environmental impact study. They will release the report in early April this year, followed by a 30-day public comment period before construction can begin. The Rocket Cargo Vanguard will infuse Air Force Research Laboratory with commercial rocket development and test campaigns to enable up to 100 tons of cargo to be delivered anywhere on the planet within tactical timelines. So thanks to S.C. Robinson Jr. for sharing that bit of news. And then finally, something that I'm keeping my eye on after completing a long-duration stay aboard the ISS, NASA's SpaceX Crew 9 astronauts, including Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, will discuss their science mission during a post-flight news conference 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, March 31st. So people are going to be asking about a lot more than just their science mission. I will be flying on a plane to Taiwan at that time, so I'm going to try to do a recap, but I'm sure many of you will want to watch that live, so just a heads up that is also coming up. I feel like a lot of these NASA press conferences people only find out about after the fact, and so that one might be really interesting to watch. I have reached out to some sources to try and set up an interview with Butch, and hopefully I'm able to do that even if it's virtually in the coming weeks. And on that same day, we might see the Fram 2 crew lift off from Pad 39A in Florida. If you've been following my coverage, you know that the Fram-2 mission will include the first astronauts to orbit Earth's poles, and it's going to lift off next week. So they were really waiting for Crew 9 to come home. Their launch date has been set back by a few months over time, but it seems like it's really actually going to happen, and it's going to be a really exciting 3 to 5 day mission. The crew will also participate in human health research, including capturing the first X-ray image of a human body in space. And yes, this is another privately funded human spaceflight mission, but it's not by Jared Isaacman. It's from a different billionaire, Chun Wang. So anyway, sorry for a little longer update, but my gosh, there's so much space news going on, and I think that this all deserves our attention. So thanks so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like. And leave a comment. It helps the algorithm to show this video to more people, and subscribe to Ellie in Space. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.